Welcome to the Modise Network. The scathing DA election review report and the election of former Premier of the Western Cape, Helen Zille, as the Democratic Alliance chairperson led to the resignations of three of its most prominent leaders from the party. The outgoing mayor of Joburg, Herman Mashaba, had indicated that he would resign if Zille was returned to a leadership position. Modise Network said he no longer had confidence in the direction the party was taking, and former Nelson Mandela Bay Mayor Athol Trollip resigned in solidarity for similar reasons. Friend and foe alike were stunned as it appeared the organization was crumbling after creating a strong presence in Gauteng through its leadership of Tshwane and Joburg. So, what went wrong? Is it fair to blame all of this on Helen Zille, or had the party reached a ceiling? What about the findings of the election review report? I will shortly talk to the spokesperson of the party, Refiloe and Sekhe, and political analysts Prince Mashele and Daniel Sekhe. Whilst politics continues to focus the public's attention, many South Africans may be losing out on their pensions. The Open Secrets organization has been investigating the demise of small pension funds and has found that over 42 billion rands plus interest may have been withheld from millions of South Africans. You may be one of those. So watch and listen to my interview with Michael Marchant of Open Secrets later in the show. The Democratic Alliance's review of its elections performance, plus the return of Helen Zille as the new chairperson, led to a meltdown at the top of the party. First, the mayor of Joburg resigning summarily, followed by party leader Modise Network and stalwart Athol Trollip. How is the DA managing these developments? And Refiloe Sekhe is here to tell us a bit more about the developments and the big political story of the week this week. And Refiloe, a pleasure to have you with us on the show.
Thank you, and good day to you and your listeners.
It was DA all over the place this week, DA collapsing, DA melting down, and this is something that some of the analysts said was in the making for several weeks. But it's based on the report. What happened?
I'm not sure if the DA is melting down. I'm still here. And clearly the DA still has leadership. So the party is still standing strong. But what I've got to say is we went into an election. We lost some votes. Some people, even the ANC, lost far more than we lost. And we decided it's time to do some introspection and see where we went wrong. And under Mosi's leadership, he commissioned a review of what went wrong during the elections, and they came up with findings and some recommendations, and these were tabled to the leadership, and that's kind of where we are. And
well, I think the thing that triggered everything, from where I'm sitting, and a lot of people's viewpoint would be the same, was that the most unexpected resignation was the first one by the mayor of Joburg, Herman Mashaba, who said he would not work with or under the leadership of Helen Zille. Why was that such an important thing for him, and why would it lead to his resignation from the party?
Pratim, let me answer you in this way. I think it's very unfortunate that Herman feels he needs to leave an organization. You see, Helen Zille coming back into the party, it's her prerogative to do so. She was not appointed. She did not parachute herself back. Nominations were opened for a federal council chair. If you remember, James Self decided to step down as the federal council chair to head our governance units, because we needed a stronger hand to look at where we govern, like Tshwane, Joburg and all the other governments, because we now govern in over about 33 municipalities, so we need a politician to look at that as well. So that left a vacuum, so we needed to replace that position. And remember, the federal council chair is the person who chairs all the leadership meetings in the party. So from that position, 4 people contested. Anybody could have contested. And the contestants were Mike Waters, then Member of Parliament, Thomas Walters, Athol Trollip, and Helen Zille. And it was her prerogative to stand. 4 people who are white. And 4 of those people contested. They went to Federal Council. It was attended by most of the delegates. Probably about, I would say, about 150 people attended Federal Council. People campaigned and lobbied people to vote for them, as we do in our internal elections. Obviously, we've got our rules and regulations around campaigning, what to do and what not to do. Helen Zille emanated from that as the victorious candidate, democratically elected. So when somebody says, I'm not going to go under one person's leadership, it's unfortunate because this person was democratically elected in the organization, just as Musi was elected democratically in 2018, and myself and the rest of the leadership of the
I'll come back to this part of Hammond stepping down as a member of DA and thus resigning from his position as mayor of Joburg. And what about Musi then? What is it that made him feel that he should resign from his position?
Look, there was a review panel findings and recommendations that were taken. The leadership made some amendments to it. I think the documents that was leaked to you is not quite what the leadership had as the final document, which is very sad that we still have leaks within the Democratic Alliance. There are certain recommendations that were made, and Musi felt it's time to step down. The leadership, full house, there was not one person who did not appeal to Musi and Athol, both, to stay on until Congress. Because if you can remember, some of the recommendations we made is, instead of him stepping down, can we rather as an organization have an earlier Congress? So Congress will be in April 2020. So there was an appeal for him to step down. He made a couple of calls to family, consulted those who are close to him, and he still made a decision to step down, as difficult as it is. But we need to respect the person who says, I'm making a personal decision that I want to step down from the position. You can't force somebody.
Well, there are two things.
Apple and James.
Well, more or less similar in nature, though. Hammond Mashaba says he believes that people who are now in charge, as particularly Helen Zille, those who support her, are of a different political orientation to himself. He does not believe that they will take the DA to where it's supposed to go. And Musi seems to echo the same sentiment when he says the DA is not the right vehicle to take us to the one South Africa for all objective, which was basically the mantra and slogan of the party going into the election. So they seem to be suggesting that the party is taking a different course of direction under Helen Zille.
You know, I beg to differ with them in this regard. One of the recommendations was, before Congress happens, we must look at having a policy conference. And the reason we want to have a policy conference, because the review was very clear in that if you look at the criticism we have endured in this election, was we seemed to be all over the place, ideologically not coherent. So when we decided we're going to have a policy conference as resolution from Federal Council and even the executive endorsed this particular, it was to sort out an ideological conversation. So it's not Helen Zille's decision alone. Remember, the DA is made up of many, many people. If I give you an example, when I talk about Federal Council, I'm talking about 150 people of differing views. So these different views would have to be debated and then ultimately a position agreed upon, which then from there the party owns up to that agreement and says, this is the decision of the party from the policy conference, and then our manifestos will emanate from that. So to say the party is going in a direction, what direction is that when we haven't even had a policy conference? So you're preempting the outcome of something that hasn't even taken place.
But Athol Trollip seems to be echoing the same sentiment when he says he thinks that Helen Zille is not the right person to lead the party. In his case, his reasons advanced were that she's a very difficult person to work with, and suggesting that she will not be open-minded to new ways of doing things or the new culture, if any, that was being built within the organization.
You know, I really think it's unfair to put one person squarely as the person giving direction in an organization, when an organization in the DA specifically is clear that we have multiple leaders. So if you look at the leadership of the DA, There's FedEx, which makes up of 9 provincial leaders, the ancillary organizations of the party, the elected federal leaders of the organization. That's just the executive structure. Expand that to Federal Council, which include representatives from all the caucuses within the country that the DA has seats in. It's not one person's view. That's why it's important that's why we convene these meetings, so we debate ideas. It's the battle of ideas that takes place in an organization that we have. So for one person, maybe for him it's a personal issue that he has with Helen, which we must respect as well, to say, if I don't feel I can work with a person, I would choose to step down. I think we must respect that decision, but not then say for the whole organization that not all of us will be able to work with Helen. I believe in the battle of ideas, and I think that's important, because when you talk about democratic processes, you need to say we table ideas. The best idea wins the contest, but you must speak to your ideas.
There's a lot of interest in what is going on in the DA, simply because it's the official opposition, and the fact that it was in charge of the important municipalities in the country, Joburg and Tshwane, which begs the next question then. With all these developments, what's going to happen to the DA governments in those councils, in Joburg and Tshwane? Well, we know what happened in Nelson Mandela Bay, but yeah, tell me.
I will still take from where Ndatimaimane left off. The governments are better under DA coalitions than what they were under the ANC. And we will continue on the project. We don't deviate from a project because we've lost the leader, because the leader is an individual. The vision of
but you know, these things, who is in charge also plays a role in how coalitions are formed, at least in Joburg.
But there's multiple leadership, remember. That's why I said it's important to start on the premise that the DA has leadership, not just one leader. There are other people within the organization that have been tasked to work on these coalitions. It's not just Mmusi Maimane being alone as the person running the organization. There's multiple players that come into coalition conversations. I've been in some of those conversations where we sit with EFF and other coalition partners on various things. Provincial leaders also play a key role because they're close to the ground. When things happen, they have to step in immediately and talk to other coalition partners. So it was not Mmusi's project alone. There's a whole vast array of different skills that different leaders were playing with, from the DA into coalition management, including the mayors that were in, and the executives in those governments that we have. So those projects are not abandoned because Ndatimaimane has left. We continue with our work because we know that the success of our project, and I want to take on Herman's words to say, if Joburg doesn't work, South Africa doesn't work. We know how important it was for us to get into those governments, and you know how important it is for us to continue the work that must be done for the residents and citizens of South Africa in those governments.
Let me ask you this final question. I mean, how damaging do you think these resignations were? Because some analysts, commentators, journalists, media generally suggest that the DA is damaged and will lose potential black support because it is going after the traditional white support, which is not a growth support area for the party. What do you think? What's going to happen support-wise going forward?
I don't think we're going to be going under one vote. When you say, let me start you at the beginning. Remember, DA has always said one nation, one future. The same version, but just differently worded, is one South Africa for all. We don't go after one particular racial group. We go after all South Africans who align with our values to say, we want you to vote for the DA. And let me tell you, if South Africa does not realize that we need the DA in, this country is on the brink of its knees. It's on the verge of collapse. If you look at the ratings, if you look at the unemployment, we're now sitting at 10.2 million people unemployed in South Africa. We cannot continue on the trajectory that we are on. If the DA does not self-rectify, South Africa would collapse completely, I'm telling you. So it's important that the DA do its work and be given the space to come up with, go through that policy conference that it needs to go through a Congress, elect new leaders. Obviously, there's other processes to elect interim leaders until we get to Congress. And then we go on the project of getting 2021 together. I don't think we're going to fail to attract black voters. I think once we self-rectify, because people think we are a broken organization, and to an extent we might say we are, because yes, some leaders have left, but that doesn't say we are broken. There is still very strong leaders. Remember our structure, you still have deputy federal chairpersons, of which I'm one of 3. There's still federal council chairs. Helen is leading that, and then there's the two deputies.
So you're optimistic about the future?
I'm incredibly optimistic. I think sometimes you need to go through a storm to get to the calm. And the DA is going through a storm, but we will self-rectify and we'll come out of this stronger.
Refiloe, thank you very much for talking to us and coming through on the show. We appreciate it. Refiloe Sekhe is the spokesperson of the DA. In a short while, we'll be talking to analysts Prince Mashele and Daniel Sekhe, who will be giving us their take of what they think is going on within the Democratic Alliance. Don't go away.